And we're off to the races. All right, how are you doing?
Good, can't complain. How about yourself?
I can always complain, but you know, come across as being complaining. No, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. Good.
Good.
Ready to get this underway, I guess.
Good fun.
Mm-hmm. So how are you doing in Maple? What are you struggling with? What can we do for you today?
Okay, so I took some months off and I just returned probably like a half a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Before I left, I was being carried through a couple of hard wills and hard lucids.
Mm-hmm.
So that, but that may have been my downfall for leaving, because that was kind of my goal. And then after I was being carried, plus my friends were playing another game at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of burnout on grinding Legion out
Mm-hmm.
may have made me leave. So now I'm worried about going back to being carried again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
When you
and
say that the being carried was part of it, is it because your goal was to reach the content, but you reached it faster through
Ye-
carries, so it didn't feel as necessary to
yeah,
put in the work, or?
yeah, exactly. Like I think
Mm.
maybe just the fact of being carried, and I was like, okay, well, what's the point from here? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. That it wasn't the sole reason, but I felt like it was a little bit suspicious that I got carried for a couple weeks, then like suddenly I stopped playing. You know, like
Yeah. So you're seeing there's some connection. I mean, you are getting artificially boosted to a level where you weren't quite at yet. So you're like, oh, now I'm kind of already there. Why would I have to put in the extra work to get there if I can already get there artificially, right?
yeah, I would believe so.
Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty normal when you're thinking more in specific goals rather than in just moving forward in general. I think that's bound to happen, right? It's like if you're trying to make a certain amount of money a month and you get like, you get like a promotion, you immediately get it. You're like, oh, okay, I guess I can stop, putting in effort now because apparently I'm worth it now. So I reached it. Of course, what the game wants to do is wants you to set a new goal, right, an even higher goal, and then start aspiring to that, so you keep playing. But
Get carried in Black Mage.
yeah. It's not essentially. I don't think it's inherently like a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of like how you deal with that and what you think is worth your time, right? If at that point also like your friends aren't playing anymore and they're all moving on anyway, yeah, it might
Yeah.
feel like a better idea to also do something else. Because I mean, as much as it is kind of a single player game, it's still more fun to play with people that you know, right?
Yeah.
So what made you come back then?
I heard about a bunch of different quality of life stuff, which, oh my god, is huge. Like the extra pet buffs and just countless other stuff.
Mhm.
I thought they had reworked my character, but I guess that's not out yet.
Yeah, that's
I-
kind of the downside of looking ahead so far into Korea, is that people are like, oh, they hear about new stuff, and it's like, oh, I'll go check it out, but that's like 6 months away, or sometimes a year away if they're announcing it early in KMS. So yeah,
so
I try to keep people posted, but also try to make sure we don't focus on that too much, because then you're constantly just in perpetuity just waiting for stuff that's going to come out, and you're never really, in the moment having fun. You're always like, what is the next thing? What is the next thing, right? I find it's harder to find fulfillment, kind of what you had, right? Like it's kind of harder to find fulfillment in the things you're actively doing if you're always just chasing the carrot on a stick. So I don't know if you're planning on settling in, right, and taking it more seriously now.
yeah, I mean, I kind of had the idea of just trying to be more casual, but
Mm-hmm.
at the last like 3 or 4 days, like my fingers are like falling off from playing so much.
Do you have a
So
casual setting, or do you just have like 100 and a 0 knot a knob? Like it's one or the other.
yeah, it's one or the other typically for me, and it's so that's why I was trying to be casual with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where burnout would come in. Yeah, if you're really like completely in or not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did grind my way up. I think when I started back, I was like 245, and then now within a couple days, I hit that 250 mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good fun with that. I'm happy to unlock the next area, or going to be unlocking the next area and stuff like that.
And so, do you have another specific goal in mind, or are you trying to get to like Hard Lucid and Hard Will by yourself this time, or what's the? Do you have any specific goals?
Probably just gonna continue getting carried, and then have the goal in mind of, all right, I'm doing this, but with the 1-day goal of soloing them. Maybe that would be a good thing to focus on.
Okay. So from my personal bias, I kind of dislike the dichotomy of either like soloing or getting carried. I'm hopefully trying to push people more into the middle, where it's like we're doing things with parties, with other people. People try to carry their weight, people try to do their best, and then together you defeat it. But like if that's not actually what you're trying to chase, we'll pass over that, right? From point 1 to point A to point B, we'll pass that point, even if it's not a stop for you. We'll pass by there eventually, right? Where you're running and you are carrying your own weight.
So like instead of, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Instead of being carried, find a different group that we'd all struggle together and meet that goal together once I get to that, close enough to that point. Yeah. I'd probably go for that.
Yeah, because it seems that if you're and yeah, this is gonna be like me standing on a soapbox for a little bit, but it feels like if you're actively just really trying to reach like a very specific goal, and you try to find the shortcut there, and you can get carried there, that's definitely a way to reach that goal. And oftentimes I find that I like to focus more on how you get there rather than where you go. So it's good to have a certain goal in mind, but then it's all about like the journey there that will determine if you're having a good time, if you're enjoying playing the game, if you can make friends, if you can make connections. And if you're doing like through carries, usually the connections are shorter, right? You're just in and out. And you're also not really, maybe not as extremely, but you're kind of just like seen as cargo along the way, right? You're not really the person who's also carrying their own weight and who's also contributing a lot to the party, which can contribute a little bit to remaining distant from the achievement, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think the whole game gets a completely new dimension and a completely new experience if you're all in it together and everyone has to do their best to be able to get it. And failing together is also a really good way of like learning of like where did it go wrong and how can we improve on this. But you're definitely in the space of the game where you can still actively improve a lot. So you can see a lot of improvement, not just through getting better and through understanding your character and each other's characters better, but also through understanding the boss fight better and by getting stronger. All of those three things working in tandem will make the whole experience, I feel, will allow you to be more in the moment and working on the process rather than specifically a goal or specifically like what is coming in 6 months. That'll be like a nice bonus once it comes, but it won't be the purpose of playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel you.
But I'm not trying to like impose it on you like you have to see everything that way. That's kind of like more the general message that I try to spread to people, because I do get that you can progress faster like this, and then you can solo everything, and then you can make a lot of money really fast like that. But I find that there's a whole bunch that gets lost if the game gets treated so functionally. Because for me at that point, there's nothing left there. Yeah. Well, the aspect of fun, I think, is very important. Yeah, and then it can be really fun to blow up a boss really fast, but I think it gets really boring if it doesn't have the value of look at all of this stuff I had to go through to get here. If it's like you just show up, you get your carry, you show up, you get your carry, and then you just turn your brain off for like 300 hours and just grind totems, and then you go to the boss and you blow it up in one time. It feels very, it's very efficient in that sense. But it's also, I don't know how much feeling you can put into it. You can make the argument that it's maybe good, because then you can just leave Maple quicker and go on to the next game. But I wonder what the level of connection is you have with your character, with your journey, and with what you actually achieved at the end, That's kind of like where I ask the question. And, it's up to you on how you see that. But, I like to just focus more on getting from point A to B than rather where point B is exactly, I guess.
Yeah, I get you.
So I'll incorporate that a little bit. Try to not be too over the top with that. Yeah, we'll see how we can, based on like how you play and everything, and what kind of stuff you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing, how we can get you from point A to B, and hopefully get you to maybe pause in the village Z somewhere in the middle. Instead of passing by, maybe you do take the stop there and chill there for a little bit. The main reason I do it is because I feel a lot of people get like the people in village Izzy kind of get passed by people, and the more people do it, the fewer people are in the village, and then the village dies out, right? Because either people leave or they get on the bus and they go to town B as well, to keep this analogy completely going. And that further promotes the just get carried and just get to end game and just blow everything up. And I feel that kind of hollows out the whole experience of the game. So I'm not saying it's inherently like a really bad or a negative thing, but I think it's important to keep a balance of people doing all the different things so that the whole experience isn't just like log in, get carried, burst boss, log out, you know? Okay, I think we spent enough time on that. So what kind of, well, as you said, the last 3 days you played a lot. So what kind of, what would you say kind of play regimen do you usually have? Like dailies, weeklies, how many hours kind of thing?
So it was probably all my daily bosses, a lot of solo weekly bosses, my dailies, like including like all my Arcane River dailies, along with Monster Park. This week I should have my finish my Monster Park badge, and then my tours and Ursus and stuff like that, and then probably 4 hours, maybe more of just farming.
So when you say farming, you mean meso farming, or you just mean training,
farming,
grinding?
Yeah, like training, grinding, meso farming. I kind of stick to the Shadow Dance halls too. I think I'm two-shotting my marks there, but I'm getting familiars, so it's kind of like I want to make my familiars aren't really where I want them to be at, so I think it's kind of worth it just grinding there, even though I'm not one-shotting with marks.
And like compared to the spider maps?
Oh, spider maps. I scrimed a little bit at the spider maps, but I don't think I'm two-shotting. I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I don't. So what I usually look at is just the rates in general. If you do like a BA, right, for like an hour, what is there like significant difference? Do you see that, or have you not done long tests yet?
Over the last 3 days, I've noticed something. It's pretty wide range for me. It seems like it goes from average of like 200 to 250 mesos per hour, which didn't seem too bad. But then there's other times it like swings wildly to where I get lucky or something. It could be like 500 mesos in that hour or something. It's like, wait, where did this 5 hour extra 250? You know, like I don't know where this extra 250 mesos came from, but you know.
I can wager a guess. You're using the same buffs, same multipliers?
Yeah, same everything. Like I typically grind in 2 hour sessions with a wealth pot.
It's possible for the first hour that you were still in a party.
Oh, okay, yeah. That might be at times.
If you're in a party, 40% of your meso just instantly disappears. Even if the person is not in the map or is offline. So I have a checklist, exclamation mark checklist. First one is check party composition, because the worst part is training for an hour or 2 hours and then recognizing you lost pretty much half of your money. When the difference is that big, it's probably just that you forgot to check and someone else was still in your party.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
Which, that hurts afterwards. But, it's good to know so that it doesn't happen again. And it will happen again at some point, but you minimize the damage, hopefully.
250, 6.6k Legion, and still making mistakes like this.
Oh yeah, no, I've done it. It's no, there's no shame, and probably a bunch of people who watch this or see this at some point probably have done it without even realizing it. But now that or you get reminded of of checking it. You know, it's a good thing to do in the beginning. I have the whole checklist where I try to go buy everything, because the further you get in the game, the more things you're trying to optimize for, right? And the more things you could possibly forget. So it's good to have.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a little bit of a list to make sure to double check. And then sometimes you still forget things. Like I'll go through a whole totem and then my Legion wasn't switched to EXP. It was still on boss damage or something. Like, it happens.
Yeah, I've done that for sure too.
But that's how that difference goes. But other than that, you've just checked in Shadow Dance Hall, or you've checked other areas, because like, you know, people want to go to VC3 a lot of times. They want to go into Moonbridge because familiars also drop there, right?
Yeah, I just assumed that if I thought I was even in too high of an area, because I thought the goal was just one shot with marks. Yeah. And so since I wasn't one-shotting there, I assumed I wasn't one-shotting anything higher.
Yeah, this would be something that you would specifically ask other Nightlords for, so they could be like, okay, if you have like around these level boost nodes, this range, then you can start. Then your your marks can start one-shotting, can start two-shotting. They will have more specific actual benchmarks for that than I can know, of course. And the main thing is, as well, is that if you're mainly relying on meso and drop gear, of course that's gonna keep you back a little bit. But if you're making 500 mil an hour, if you don't forget the party setup, and you're getting decent EXP as well. I mean, you got 5 levels in the last 3 days. I mean, you probably went pretty hard, but I assume that EXP is not god awful then, at least, right?
And also there was like, I think one of those the first level was what was it? The
potion?
From, yeah. So 4 levels within 3 days. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely want to use my meso drop gear and stuff still, because I'm not too worried about one-shotting marks, as long as I want to just make sure to get my mesos with it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing that people try to go for is being able to kill properly and limit on once they get to 255, right? I assume even Nightlords are very keen to go up there. But yeah, that would be specific. Specific Nightlord questions to see like what maps do you go to at what. It would be kind of like what range level, I guess. Do you have?
I have the Nightlord Discord.
Yeah, we have Nightlord Discord. Yeah, okay, yeah. Because I'm not gonna pretend to know those specific Nightlord things better than other Nightlords, so they'll probably be able to help you more specifically with that.
No problem.
A lot more experience in there. Okay, and then before we get into everything, I guess I gotta ask, what is your familiarity with like the whole process with the progression sessions? Many of you seen have you seen any of those? And like,
very familiar with your progression sessions. Like even when I was, I think even when I was was even playing MapleStory, I was still watching a lot of these.
Oh yeah, so you were keeping up a little bit from a distance.
Yeah.
Okay, and when it comes to like the resources that I have and everything, and I guess the systems in the game, to which extent are you familiar with those? Are there some where you need some extra information just to make sure you're on the right page?
I still pop in for like your tag progression or tag familiars. Like I'll pop in every so often and start using your stuff. But there's definitely links that I have forgotten since, and because I know
there's too many.
I'm using it less. Yeah, I'm using it less now than what I did back when I was playing before.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully the whole thing kind of makes more sense, so you don't have to check it the whole time, right?
Yeah.
You get a better sense yourself on like where the balance is for things, so you don't need to copy off your neighbor's look over to your neighbor's homework every time to see what he's doing, because you kind of get it at a certain point, right?
Yeah. Hopefully that's it, but it feels like a new game a little bit again to me, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how long you're out of it, but I mean, a lot of the general things still stand, right? Like where damage comes from. What did you like? Does the final damage change from the reboot passive new for you, for example?
Oh yeah. Okay, that was a huge thing. Like I got like extra. Everybody got final damage, right?
Yeah. They changed the damage percent for final damage percent to make it more fair for everyone, right? Because the damage percent would scale with the boss damage, and then you would get diminishing returns the higher you went, which was not what the purpose of the system was. The purpose of the system was to make everyone a certain percentage stronger because of the lack of sources of damage that we have compared to non-reboot. So to make it closer to have the desired effect, they give everyone final damage instead, because that just multiplicatively works with any other final damage. So it makes everyone across the board 20% or 30% stronger, rather than having, you know, diminishing returns. You're familiar with the difference between like additive and multiplicative?
Yes, very familiar.
Yeah, so that's basically where that whole thing came from.
Yeah, it was definitely a big change when I logged back in and tried some bosses. I was like, oh wow, this is nice. Did I do this much damage before?
Yeah.
And then realizing, yeah.
Yeah, it does mean now that if you're trying to upgrade for training specifically, and you're looking at like the range difference, it might be that in some situations now percentage damage ends up giving you more damage than percentage attack does, which, you know, would only be true for the mobbing part, right? For the bossing, it probably wouldn't be true, but
because of the boss damage.
Yeah, so and it will, because it's so much of a bigger chunk, the percentage that comes from boss damage. So the range now goes down, but then the range differential might be completely different once you're looking at the whole picture. So it's a bit less intuitive now to look at the numbers on the items, because that's that's specifically looking towards your visual damage range in the character set window, which has also started meaning less and less as the game has gotten more complex, right?
Yeah.
Someone with a 7 mil range, you know, you find another character with 7 mil range, they could be doing half your damage, they could be doing 4 times your damage. You know, it totally depends on a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess in that sense it could kind of become a new game. All right, so let's start going through all the systems, and then we can see if there's any knowledge gap, any questions you have. I don't know if you have any questions written down already.
Yeah, I have a few, but I assume quite a few of these that we will hit as we're going through.
We'll hit. If you have an extra one on a topic and, you know, it hasn't passed by yet, just shout and we'll get into it.
I'll make sure.
Yeah. Well, let's just start with the stat window. Do all the numbers in the stat window all make sense to you? Is there anything there that you have questions about? Like interoperability, hyperstats, anything on the right side, I guess?
I wanted to just ask about the there's changes to interoperability that have gone through now, right? That was just like...
Very recent. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes, I contacted the guy with Brandon May with the calculator as well, to hopefully make sure that all of his stuff is up to date there as well. They changed the rarity of epic lines when you have unique interoperability, and of epic and unique lines when you have legendary interoperability, to be increased quite significantly. So we are at this stage, well, you know, as long as everything went through in GMS like it did in KMS, you know, like everything is kind of hidden in GMS, so we kind of don't know the exact numbers, but from everything we can assume, and because they copy paste pretty much everything, right, we seem to be now at the best stage to do anything with your interoperability to date, if you're trying to min-max on there.
Good to go on that. I can go ahead and roll on the interoperabilities a bit if I'm willing to let go or risk the mesos obtained.
Yeah, so there's a whole like approach to it. So not this Sunday, but a Sunday afterwards, there's also 50% off on our experience. So all of your rolls are half off, which is, you know, what I would advise is to only really consider rolling during those times. If you are planning to go super hard on your interoperability and you want to reach like, you know, a very solid late game or end game ability to get more bossing capabilities out of it, because that's specifically why you roll, right? You typically don't roll for... In the beginning, you get one with Meso obtain, with drop rate, just to keep you going. Some people need, like, buff duration, or they need attack speed, right? But that's pretty much it for most people. And then once you're trying to do hard lucid, hard will, and specifically once you're trying to go into Tenebris, people, you know, at that point, you start training more slowly. Sometimes people make money through other means, through farming character, through bossing mules, all that stuff. And then the main character, you just are playing it for the EXP. You're just trying to get as much EXP as possible, and you want to optimize for bossing, right? So that's kind of the choice you have to actively make. If you think you're still going to be training, and, you know, again, like, you're either getting carried or you're carrying your weight in bosses, you don't necessarily need to redo the interoperability. 20% meso obtain is great and will stay great for a very, very long time. redoing and like locking the top line and redoing the second and third to try to get something useful within the meso obtain can be a thing to do, but honor experience is a pretty limited resource. So to give you an idea, so the general approach is like most classes have 1 or 2 very useful unique lines that you would want to get. You tend to roll those first with the circulator, because when a circulator rolls a line, it's always the best possible line within the rarity, so it's always the highest number, so you have less variance. And also you can roll with money, which saves you on honor experience. And then once you hit the line that you want, you lock that one, and then during a 50% off invulnerability event, you roll the top line to get back what you need there. And so, for example, like on my Cannoneer, I hit the 20% crit rate line, which is very useful for a lot of classes. Apparently for my Cannoneer, it's not very, because he has way too much crit, but whatever. And then I wanted to roll the attack speed +1 back for the top line, right, while locking it. But like during a 50% off event, that still cost me 3.5 million honor experience. So the cost can be quite severe. So when you're talking about like I can reroll if I want to, you definitely can, but you're immediately like slowing down the time when you're going to be able to min-max and get a really, really good invulnerability later. So if you're planning on just still training and either getting carried or just starting up like struggle parties, you'll probably do fine as a Nightlord. The main thing that you need to do is just learn the boss properly and communicate with your party properly, and you'll be doing a lot of the burst damage even at like a lower amount of stats. And having, whether you have like a great optimized invulnerability or not, is not going to have a huge effect on your damage output, but it will have an effect on how much faster you'll be able to scale up your equips and everything because of the mesos that you gain, right? Because the sources of meso obtain are pretty scarce, and having an extra 20 in your invulnerability is very valuable for a long time.
Yeah, and it's definitely mesos that's holding character. When we go into it, you're gonna look at it, be like, well, how are you 250 with these stats?
I don't know, man. I got the 250 on my marksman, for example, with like a 6% dex regular dimension invasion glove. Like, I don't know. I typically get to level 250 with like necro gear, a glove and shoe. I don't even get abso, so I don't think there's going to be any judgment from me in that way. No worries.
Okay. But yeah, then I'll definitely keep the meso obtain then.
Yeah, I think it's a smart idea to keep it for a while. Yeah, not just because the gains that you can make right now with it is relatively small, and you will be cutting into the more desirable gains later on by working on it now, I would say. Yeah.
Cool.
Typically, if you want to settle for like the end game, I would say have at least like 2.5 to 3 million honor experience if you really want to settle into like a good invulnerability that has exactly the unique line you want, and then roll back into the top line that you want. You could look into it, of course, but you know, I'm very much rather safe than sorry kind of approach.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I think I spent 1.5 mil just getting the. Well, I didn't know about the circulator thing before, so when I was rolling before, but yeah, I spent 1.5 mil honor XP just getting the 20%.
Yeah, yeah, I could tell you spent some, because typically you have a bit more than a mil here. So, yeah, I can already tell you spent some. So that's why I wanted to give you the context on. I'm not just going to say, for most things, and this is why these sessions go so long, I usually don't say, like, don't do this, because then the problem is you won't really know where that information is coming from, what that advice is based on. And then, like, a month from now, you'll be just as lost, because now you don't know if the parameters are still the same, right? So hopefully, knowing the thought process that I just told you, it'll give you more information on, okay, maybe can I roll now? And then you'll just have, you know, you can either watch the session back on what I said, or you can remember what I said if you have such a great memory, which I don't, on like why I told the things that I did, right? And that's the other thing I like to focus on, giving like the whole picture. And that makes, yeah, for longer answers, but then hopefully that gives you a little bit of a peek into the decision-making process, and that can give you the tools in the future to be successful and not to make any mistakes that are easily omitted. Yeah,
definitely appreciated.
Okay. Cool. Anything else with the stat window where you know about hyperstats and the presets and everything? Did you make 2 different ones?
Yeah, I made one for like, EXP and normal monster damage, and another one for. Yeah, I think I made another one that just kind of lists them out.
So the other one is like, instead of the IED and the boss, it's basically bonus EXP and normal monster damage?
Yeah.
Because I imagine the normal monster damage must be really good for the marks, right?
Yeah, so I'm looking for whatever sources I can for that, and since I'm being carried, I'm not as worried about, like, even with the event.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up here, but the Muto's
Muto.
growth journal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even went like 30% normal enemy damage and only like 20% boss because
Arcane, normal damage. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more worried about that than
EXP probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I went the level 3 EXP as well.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's good value. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to throw in there, but like like the HP and the attack and the stat are a little bit on the low side. There's a lot of good stats in there, so you can definitely find something to throw your skill points into, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you? Sorry.
Loving that new enemy normal enemy damage added to it.
Yeah.
That's another quality of life thing for me.
Yeah, they're adding that, and so in KMS they also added that to the Legion board.
Oh dang!
Because they got they made basically the knockback resistance 100% for everybody, just through skills passively. Not like immediately at level 1, but like, you know, second, third, fourth job. So by fourth job, everyone basically always has 100% knockback resistance. So they just removed the hyperstat for knockback resistance completely. And then they replaced the Legion block with it with normal monster damage. So that would be another way of, you know, leveling your Legion faster, or if you're mobbing to get a bunch of damage. Then it'll be a little bit weird to connect the the fields, but then you want to go for, like, you know, enough crit rate to get to 100%, and then critical damage and EXP on top, and then normal monster damage on the bottom. But yeah, of course they're like as far away from each other as they could be, so you're still gonna have to dedicate a lot of space to connecting those. But yes, that's another thing why getting like over 6k Legion is gonna be more valuable than.
Yeah.
Up to 40% normal monster damage is going to be quite huge, of course.
Yeah, working on Legion is something I like to do anyway. So
you like it, but or not so much, because you did mention that you go a little hard.
It's love-hate relationship. It's
you like the results, but
I think I put too much effort into maybe bossing, like getting all my boss gear for each mule and trying to prep them for wanting to level them up, rather than just spending that time putting some levels on a character and just getting through it.
More of the time being stuck in preparing for optimization instead of just going.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's part of the burnout too.
It can be, I think. So if I'm just gonna throw a theory out there. I think it can be because you are spending a lot of time, but you're not seeing any immediate results. So there's like a disconnect between how much work you're putting in and how much result you're seeing, because it's your goal is the levels going up, right, and having a big Legion level. But if you spend all the time preparing and none of it cashing in on it, you're not feeling the result that you know you should be having.
And then there's the like with my Phantom, like it got geared out real quick, real easy, and I'm still having trouble. Like it's at 180 right now, and it's like why? Like it feels still feels so bad leveling it up. And then like other characters that, you know, didn't get as much love, like the Jet right now, I can play that no problem, and it's definitely not nowhere near where the Phantom is. And it just feels tons better to play. Yeah,
different classes have different pros and cons for sure. Phantom has the versatility. So what I think the main problem is with Phantom is because you have access to so many things, they had to make sure that if you take all the strongest things, that you were still balanced within the game. So they had to make sure that they balanced for that situation where you took like all of the final damage, right? Because there's a bunch of final damage you can take. They had to make sure that even within that, you're not overpowered. Which means that anything else that you take, you're going to be weaker than the thing you get balanced for. So you're kind of choosing to be get certain handicap, and if you basically your only other choice is to go really support heavy to make sure that you can have some value for the team there. But of course they had to nerf that as well to make sure that you're not like better support than Bishop, because you can yoink people's skills. So the whole thing, like being able to take other people's skills, kind of backfired, I think, and became kind of a balancing nightmare. And that's why I think Phantom is a really cool concept, but as a class doesn't really shine as bright as it could, I think, for that reason. And it's probably also why, with Xenon, with the crossover, where you could use 5th job skills for both Pirate and Thief, right? I think that's why they're not really making any more classes where you can cross over skills, because it's just a nightmare to balance properly.
So yeah, with the Phantom, my plan is definitely now, like, it's either potions or I'm gonna...
Yeah, that's fine.
CRA and what's it called? Get them some different gear, some more better gear. Well, the two, I'm not touching them for a while now. Either way.
Yeah, well, and I think that's so to go into Legion and link skills and all that, I guess, because I think we're okay with the stat window and everything on there, right? To go into that, I think one of the solutions to the over preparing on some, finding better results on some other ones, and not getting as much progress done as you would want. There's definitely a lot of value in getting a bunch of the pieces on all the characters, because once you get to 200, you can Star Force all of them. You can get a lot of raid power out of that, and that'll give you a lot of Legion coins, right? So you can start big spending on all of the stuff you might want on new characters. And if you're training or farming, you'll always be able to buy the coupons that you want, and that'll just translate to a whole bunch of gains. It's good to divide your classes up into groups of, this one I want to train, and then spend a little bit more time on getting the pieces and getting the equips together. And we can talk a little bit about which pieces you want to get to optimize that. And then this other class, I just don't like it. I hate it. I don't want to train it. And this is where all of the potions go and stuff like that. That's totally fine as well, because there's a lot of access to these potions. So you just get to boost some characters within your account, and you don't have to really worry all that much about what they do. That's totally fine too, to have like 2 or 3 characters in that category at all times. And then either boosting with potions or boosting with a burn, like a mega burn or a terra burn, right? Although for terra burn, I would usually keep that for either like a side character, bossing mule, as priority, because you just get to 220 so fast with a terra burn these days. You get so much free stuff, and even though all the way up to 220, there's so much value. So I would prioritize that. But if you don't want to, I would say third would be like getting a level 3 link skill, right? Anything 210. So let's say that you have like an Angelic Buster at 144. You don't really feel like training it. It's a little bit lower of a priority to get to a level 3 link, but eventually you want to get it. So you're like, okay, I'll just leave it at 144 for now, and then the next Terra Burn comes out, boom, I'll Terra Burn it, and I'll immediately have a 210. If I like it, I can make it into a bossing mule. If I don't, I have a level 210. I can get the accessories on it more easily because it comes with temporary CRA gear, right? It'll be really strong. Then I can get all the Star Force done. Maybe get through CRA as well, so I can get permanent CRA pieces, equip those, or not equip those, but have them. And then whenever a Star Force event comes around, then you just only upgrade them during a Star Force event, because you're not in a rush, because you're not really trying to go anywhere with the character. But then you have a solid level character with solid Star Force with a level 3 link, and you don't have to worry about it between now and then. You're like, okay, there's going to be, probably in the summer, there's going to be 2 Terra Burns and 1 Terra Burninator that we know of. So that means that you can...
What's a Terra Burninator?
It's basically you give the effect of 3 levels for 1 onto a character, but you can do it on an existing character.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, for example, something that's like in the 150s or something that you end up like, I don't really like. Let's say the Bishop, for example, is like, or maybe a good example could be the, do you have a Shade or something?
Yeah, I have a Shade in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, then scroll all the way there.
Yeah, I think it's one of the lowest ones.
Yeah, maybe like a Hayato, for example, or a Shade, where it's like they have a really good double S Legion board, right? The 5% crit is really big. But let's say that you're in the like 140s, right? And you didn't get to use a bunch of potions. You do want to get it to 200, but you just don't like training it at all. That's a really good target for a Terra Burninator, because Terra Burninator gets you up to 200 and it just stops at 200. And it also doesn't give extra gear, so it doesn't have the extra value of pushing it forward to becoming a bossing mule or easily getting those extra 10 levels to level 210. So Burninator is perfect for getting a double S Legion board. And that's why you're familiar with the links grid that I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where you really want to look at, like, what is the goal for this specific character? Is there really a lot of value in getting this one to 200, or is that only for the Legion board levels? If it's only for Legion board levels, it just becomes a lower priority. And if you also don't like it, then it becomes a, you know, it goes into the list of you go for potions or burninator or something like that, but like number 5 on the list, for example. And if you kind of are able to organize all the characters like that, you'll easily find which ones are a priority to work on and where you want to progress on and that you want to train, and which other ones you can just safely ignore for a while, get all the levels in first, and then once you have all the levels in first, then you can go back to the easier bosses, kill those faster, and then get those accessories later anyway, because there's no rush there to really get all those pieces, unless you're going to be upgrading them all as well. Because just naked pieces are nice, but they don't do all that much for your damage, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go into that with the Adele later.
Yeah. I mean, Adele could do a lot with very little. This is a strong class.
Yeah, I mean, the Adele is like set up. It has Absol Lab. It has I mean, it's gonna go. It just doesn't have any Star Force and doesn't have any potentials on it at all. And it's one of those things where I'm gonna ask, like, basically if I should be investing into the 5, 10, 15 into my main character, or if I should be trying to raise the Adele as a bossing mule.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I'll keep that in mind. Yep. On that note, I guess, what kind of budget are you working with, do you think, by this Sunday?
If I'm going to continue with the rates I've been going, I should probably have... I'm sitting at like 10.5 right now. I'm guessing at the very least like 13, 14. Maybe something up to like 18 bill.
Definitely if you don't... if you kick people from your party, right? Yeah. Don't worry. I think it happened to me last time, like 3 weeks ago, so it's gonna be looming forever. Yeah.
Thinking about that, I'm not even thinking about the mesos obtained from soloing, like CRA and stuff like that. So
okay.
Some probably a little bit more.
But you're considering like the Ursus and Maple Tour, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ursus and Maple Tour plus, you know, whatever grinding I have left.
Yep. Okay.
That's what I'm counting.
But yeah, so I guess from that reference frame, does it feel like you have a bit more structure on the characters now, or do you still have any questions on like how to attack Legion to keep it manageable? Because it's a lot of characters, right?
Yeah. So basically, the way I've been going at it is using your priority of values crossing with what is enjoyable that I've found to play, and I guess my next question is, if, like with this event, with all these growth potions, should I just try and use them on characters that I haven't put too much time in? Well, I guess you've already answered this a bit, but ones that I haven't geared out necessarily just yet, and since they're not very geared yet, and have them go up by potions, or should I just, I know this character, like the Phantom, he's geared out already, but I know I don't like him, so go ahead and throw the potions on characters like that. And versus whether I should use it on higher level characters or the 140s.
Yeah, I made a video on this because it is a little bit tricky. There's definitely high value per potion by just using it on lower level characters, but what you might end up with is like a whole board of like 165s to 170s that are at the point where training gets pretty tricky, right? Like around 170 it actually gets pretty hard, and then you need to do all the funding to be able to get it past there, or you just need to wait for more potions, right? And that can be a bit tricky. So if you're purely trying to go for the Legion level gains, the most efficient way would just be to throw it on every single character, right? And get them all to 151, all to 160. But it's possible that you end up at like 7.4k Legion or something, 7.5, 7.6, which feels really close. But then you have to get 400 more levels, all on like level 180s that have no funding and that can't kill anything near their level. And I've noticed people kind of get stuck there. So I would, to go back to what I said before, I would try to classify the characters into these ones I want to train, these ones I don't want to train, and prioritize potions towards the characters that you don't want to train. Maybe don't go all the way on the Phantom, because like using the potions like past level 195 or something, or like past 190 basically is pretty low efficiency there. But I think you could definitely still just pot to get it up to 190. And then just, if you have other characters that you also don't like, then throw it on those. If you just want to get the Phantom, like say the level 3 Link or something, then you might even want to get it to 200 and give it some of those potions that you can use past level 200, right? So it depends on how much you hate it, I would say. If there's really like one, like the Phantom it's just not gonna get there unless I do that. And for all the other characters, like it just takes a little bit more effort, but I'm okay with most of the other ones. Then I think it's totally fine to just boost everything into a Phantom. And in the end, it's better to just use the potions and get the levels out of it now and not waste any, because fear of not using it too optimally. Because potions like that are gonna come back. Terra Burn events are gonna come back. Mega Burns are gonna come back. So it's just about making the gains and moving on also. And if it's not super optimal, it's whatever, as long as you got levels on a character you hate it, because that's the other thing, right? If you're forcing yourself to get the levels otherwise on characters you don't like, your fun meter is just going to get depleted, right? And you're going to go right back into the doing things that you feel like you have to do rather than that you want to do.
Yeah. The next question about it would be, how about Legion coins? Do you recommend using the pots they give at all, like for the half level?
So I do that because I have a lot of them. It gets to the point you definitely want to keep the buffer to be able to rank up immediately, right? You definitely keep that amount of coins available, and you want to also make sure that you can just train and use EXP if needed, and HP. Sorry, not HP. Meso, right, and maybe drop if that's needed coupons when you're training, so that you feel like you're getting good gains during your totems. As long as you can always do that and you're keeping a healthy buffer, then you could use that on those characters. But then again, I would specifically use it more on the characters that you're trying to you're just trying to level up for the sake of it, rather than the ones you would actually enjoy. But I ended up doing that on my characters, but that's because I'm still north of 100,000 coins after all the ones I've been spending. So for me, it's not really a second. I don't really have to think about it. But if you're a little bit shorter on coins, make sure that you keep those buffers for training and for the next rank up, definitely.
As far as using legions for those coupons, I don't really use totems too much. I typically have a mule canna for irrigation that I use, so that's pretty much my go-to.
Okay.
So if it's like basically 100% uptime on Kishin, then it's like I don't really have a timer. I only have 2 hours of this window.
Okay.
I don't really know when to go for the coupons. I guess I should just use them whenever, but
well, the combination is if you use wealth acquisition potions and experience accumulation potions as well. Because those are, you can stack those if you're an alchemist, and those last 2 hours. So then you would stack between them, because the wealth acquisition is cumulative. So it also helps when you're using the Legion coupons, and you have the meso obtain, right, and your invulnerability and then your equips and everything. It works with all that stuff. So that makes your gains go up quite a bit as well. And then you would. That's why a lot of people do that when they say totem. It's mainly because sometimes now people say, like, I'll do a WAP, right? That's actually the main thing that they're doing. That's why they're doing a 2-hour session, is because those potions are so valuable and they last 2 hours.
So then probably just max out on my coupons every week then, huh?
Yeah, so that will be like 5 2-hour sessions, right? Because there's 10 hours of coupons a week. And then the last session is the beautiful one where you get to press every 10 minutes and forget all the time and come out like 7 or 8 minutes desynced by the end of the session because you keep forgetting to click some. I know that's never happened to me, but
Yeah, I feel ya. Okay, so that's a big one for me, because I've been saving coins when I should be spending it on those. Then I think,
Yeah, being able to overlap on those things is definitely going to see the efficiency go up as well. That's when you basically add value to your coins, right? By using it during the wealth acquisition potions. Do you have like the recipes and then some materials for that?
Yeah, I think I have enough materials right now to make like 10 pots, and I'm holding on to recipes so I can make them whenever. I think I still have like 30 wealth pots on me. So yeah, I got plenty to go.
Nice. Oh, speaking of wealth pots, I believe I got some when I was opening my Monster Park boxes. Oh, I think I put them in storage, yeah. Because you can get them from the, what is it, Friday boxes or something? They give mesos. They can also give wealth pots sometimes. That's nice. You're doing a Monster Park, right? You mentioned that?
Yeah, so like I've slowed down a little bit once I'm starting to, because I have so many coins that it's kind of like I'll probably just do the Sunday ones for the EXP coupons. But
yeah, they're great for
beyond
Legion,
that,
right? You just throw those potions on there as well every time you're doing anything.
yeah, and I definitely have like a overlap of that too. I think, but just kind of cutting back on some of the dailies is gonna help me. So like I'm a little bit excited for after this week and just have the 7-day Monster Park badge or whatever, and just being able to cut back on the dailies a little bit will be nice for some time.
No, I get that. Yeah, you don't want like 4 hours of your day to just be dailies, and then I finally get to play the game. Oh, it's nighttime. I need to go sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not super conducive to feeling like you're. And then again, we go back to the thing you had with the Legion, right? Like you feel you're just doing prep and you're doing upkeep, but you're not really moving forward.
Yeah, I don't get to. I don't have the couple hours at that same time to spend grinding for EXP or something, and I know, like I can tell myself, yeah, it's worth doing this daily stuff, but at the same time, it's like I'm not seeing anything immediate from it.
Yeah, that could be tricky. I guess usually I ask, what is the strongest, like, because it seems like you're okay with grinding, but the main thing is that you want to see certain bosses being able to be killed, either like solo or in a party to get the equips. But I guess your main goal is to be able to solo certain bosses.
Yeah.
Or at least have them die quickly. Yeah.
I want to see big numbers.
Yeah.
I guess is the better way to put it.
Or many of them in your case, like a whole lot of them. Just big numbers in terms of exactly. Yeah, no, you'll do that. Spread throw will definitely do that. So what is the strongest thing you've killed solo? And the strongest in a party, I guess.
Okay, so hard will would be the strongest. I mean, if
like the strongest in like a party of your peers.
Okay, let's see. I would say then a regular will. A regular will, yeah. And then regular will is probably the highest. I haven't soloed that, but in a party, and then solo, I would want to say Lotus and Damien. Akachi or Kechi?
Akechi, yeah. Can be nice and annoying.
All that row.
Yeah.
I was thinking about trying to solo Angel Slime this week, but I didn't put the time in learning the boss and stuff. So that's the thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did it yesterday on my Cannoneer. It's you have to kind of see how far you get the HP bar down to decide. You're actually in a good spot though, because his test is basically on a 3-minute timer, and your burst is on 3 minutes, right? So some classes have 2-minute timer, which makes it a bit annoying. It's like, do you pop it right before the test, and then you extend the test, and it basically go for a 4-minute timer, like you purposefully pause the test and postpone it a little bit, so that when he comes out of the test, basically there's like a little test you have to do, right? And then if you do it properly, he's like incapacitated for a little bit, and you deal extra bonus damage to him. So the combination of getting like, and it doesn't count as a bind. It's basically like with Will in between the stages where he's like groggy with the red thing around him, right? You can just wail on him, and then right after that you can bind him again, so you basically get him incapacitated for a longer period of time, which of course as a Nightlord is amazing, right? Because he's just sitting there, so you can but you're on a 3-minute timer as well, and the test is on a 3-minute timer, so you should have everything back right, and then he'll just be sitting there, and you can just throwing Star Barrage or Spread Throw, whatever you want to call it, on his ass and commit a lot of the damage. Yeah, I did it on my Cannoneer in about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. But that guy is closer to 30k stats, so but of course, Nightlord, you got crazy burst. So
yeah, it's one of those things where I was thinking it's 100 mil for the mesos. I got the 5, 10, 15 coming up. In the time it takes for me to learn and practice the boss and stuff for this week, is it really worth it? And I'm like, I think I'd rather just make sure to get my grinding in and the mesos obtained that way.
Yeah, and of course I get hard carried by the guild skills as well. I don't know how you are with guild skills, how your access is. You probably have at least the last 2 skills maxed, right?
Yeah, we get just under the second skill maxed.
Okay,
so
okay.
I think it's like 14 out of 15 or whatever.
Yeah, okay, really close. Yeah, so that, for bossing, that still gives you a whole lot of extra burst, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, once we go everything and we talk about the optimizing, I think for next week you can definitely try. I would always just try it, right? Just to see where you stand. The main thing is going to be, because you kind of have to do the test while you're doing the damage and while you're avoiding the boss, right? So you have to know what attacks to avoid. There's typically like the dangerous skill is the laser that he has, but it hits you for about half of your HP. So as long as you're full HP, you can just heal pretty quickly and it's like no big deal. The beams that come through the map and then things that can stun you can come together, so you want to preemptively dodge the beams, and basically he will teleport always after a while to where you're standing, so you just always want to go 1 platform higher so you can still hit him, but he can only hit you with the beam from there. Everything else he does misses you basically. So you want to avoid getting him to the very top platform, because then you don't have a platform above to stand on. And if he does go to the top, then you just focus on the puzzle, which is basically hitting rocks and getting them to smash into portals to block the portal. So you'll get used to like which rock is a good one, which rock is a bad one, and then you have to hit like the opposite arrow key of the direction you want them to go to, like the down arrow if you want to smash them up, and the up arrow if you want to smash them down. That you fuck that up a little bit in the beginning. That's pretty normal. And
I was looking at the guide video. I'm like, for this first week, I could skip the first week. And it was the same thing with the Akechi. I was like looking at him because I hadn't, before these last couple of days, I hadn't faced him at all. And I was like, okay, well, looked at him really quick. I'm like, okay, I can bust that one.
Yeah, he's just annoying, right? Because he just knocks you around into the air. You get too far away, he throws the big AoEs. You get too close, and then he keeps knocking you up. Yeah. So
it was just one of those things where the reward of it was something I can see. Oh, okay, I think I could do that within a couple minutes, and it's worth the money with the Guardian slime or whatever. I'll do that next week.
Yeah, it's a low chance. It's a very, very low chance of the ring. It's got those little EXP potions, like the half-hour ones, which are kind of nice, and it's got MVP buffs sometimes that it drops as well, which just stack with your regular experience, so that's nice. And it's got I don't know if it drops primals. I think that's only the chaos form. But yeah, I use it in my rotation because my characters are like pretty close to 30k stat. Then I feel like you should just do it, because with the amount of characters that I have, if you can get a bunch of the MVPs, you can just at least 1 totem in the week, or hopefully like 1 totem in a week, you can almost like fully MVP it. So that gives you a whole bunch of extra EXP to grind out. But that drop table should have been added to a bunch of bosses and hasn't been, but that's going to be added to like normal Lotus and Damien and everything up. So once you're running the bosses like that in a party, you're going to have like loot rotations on who gets to loot those MVPs and stuff. Or, if you're soloing by that point, you'll get to hoard all of them for yourself and scale up your grinding a whole lot, right? So that's going to be the value of the next 4 months of scaling up your character and being able to kill those bosses, possibly on multiple characters like your Adele, like your Kana maybe. And then being able to funnel those into one character to boost it to where you want it to go.
Yeah, that's another question. It's probably more worth it just if I'm not worried about Absolab, just doing the normal solo and then leave the hards alone.
Yeah, a lot of time people like, and on my characters, I'll just do normal Lotus and Damien, and they'll be like, you know, less than 2 minute runs, maybe even like a minute run for each or something, you know, but really, really fast. And people are like, oh, why aren't you doing hard? It's like, because hard has 30 times the HP, you know? That means that if everyone in the party does the damage at the same rate, that every single person has to kill 5 of them, you know? So if it's like a minute, let's say it's 2 minutes, that means that it's a 10-minute run with a 6-man party, you know? Or if it's like a 3-man party, it's a 20-minute run. Like, then you have to start allocating that time, making sure that your link skills are up. You have to start doing that for 4 or 5 characters. Like, I don't know, I'm not messing with that, you know? For like a 1 in a bajillion chance for a Berserk, then an eye patch. Just give me that guaranteed money in those few minutes and let me move on, you know? And then for the few characters that I want to push, I'll look for that when the time comes. But man, yeah, I'm not trying to scale up to be bossing 6 hours a day, you know? Yeah. Although some people are, right? With the bossing mules, you hear the plans that some people have. They're going to be bossing all day, every day. But, you know, if they're bossing 6 hours a day instead of farming on their Kana 9 hours a day and they're making the same money, then that's a good move for them, honestly. That's 3 extra hours you have available, so makes sense.
No joke.
Yeah. But, like, to progress Legion and to progress the links, does it make a bit more sense, or is it still a bit vague for you?
Yeah, it I definitely got a better direction with it.
Yeah, just slap a label on them, you know? Be like, this is the shitter tier, wait for potions or for big bursts. This one is going to be fun, so I'm going to get accessories on them. Oh yeah, and I was going a little bit more, under exclamation mark Legion, I also have a list of like the things I use to fund the characters under the Build Your Legion. The one thing that's outdated here is the giant spider, right? Because of the drop rate, so that's not really relevant anymore. But the other ones are still stand. I think one of the main things that I see, quote unquote, missing from what you're doing is to get the Sweetwater weapon. I think just unlocking Commercy, and then again specifically on the characters you're gonna try to train, right? Unlocking Commercy and just doing like the first few bosses like 2 or 3 times. So this should be like 2 or 3 days of Commercy tops. And getting a Commercy weapon is gonna give you a whole bunch of damage compared to the Pencilier weapon. Pencilier weapon is just god awful. And the easiest scale up is towards Sweetwater weapon. And because the drop rate is so high now in Reboot, it's a very, very reliable upgrade to make. Yeah, that and just getting enough Monster Park potions, you know, so those are always on. And then maybe going into those Legion potions if you feel like you have enough of a buffer. Or if it's a character that's maybe already like, you know, 170, and you're like, okay, it's kind of too late to rely on a Mega Burninator here, right? It will barely be any value. But I still want to boost it a little bit because I want to get it to 200 or 210 for level 3 Link. Then that might be a good character to do that on.
Yeah, okay, that's a huge one. I didn't even...
Yeah, plus it'll help the bossing, right? It comes with 30 boss and 10 IED on it as well. So that'll help you do like Horntail and stuff at a good time, so you can get those earrings more easily, the rings, the pendants, all that stuff. And that'll help you on the Star Force and the damage, and that'll, you know, help you push the snowball down the hill and just crush out that level 200.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a huge... Now there's something else to work towards for them.
Yeah, and again, you don't want to do this just blanketly for all the characters, but only the ones that are in the category of you're gonna be training, right?
Yeah.
Just, yeah, so categorize them, and then you also know, like, oh, an event is coming. You don't have to be like, oh, where do I use them? What do I do? You're like, oh, category shitters. Who's number 1 on the shitter list? You get the potions. Boom. Yeah. And that'll help you just immediately get into the event as well, and not the first 2 days be like running around like, what do I do? Where do I go? You know, what's going on? You'll immediately have a plan even before the event is there. You'll be like, time to, you know, open up the cabinet of the shitter list, and then those guys are gonna finally get some gains. And then you'll see 8k Legion becomes more manageable, yeah. Because up to 6k is very doable, but then to jump from like 6.5 to 8 is, you have to be a little bit more methodical there.
Yeah, it was one of those things when I kind of had it, I felt like I had it down to a science before I left, but now that I left and I come back, I look at all these characters and I'm like, I had no idea where I left any of these characters. I kind of just log into one and I'm like, okay, I'm pleasantly surprised at this one, and then log into the next one and I'm like, oh, yeah, this one needs more work.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see some characters that probably got potioned up, right? Like the Ilium and the Ice Lightning Mage. I think you didn't train them in that gear, I think, to 200, right?
No, that wasn't like level 80 gear or whatever.
Yeah, but is it level 88 or something? Yeah, and the mechanic probably got a little bit of help as well.
Yeah, I think I actually did level him up from 160 on. I was actually quite surprised with them and had a bit of fun. But I
Yeah,
think there was also a
again.
event of some sort.
Oh, it's possible. Yeah. It can be very hit or miss, right? Because some characters you might like, and then when I make lists, it's like, okay, people generally dislike Phantom, generally dislike Evan, generally dislike Mechanic, but I'm not going to tell you, like, you have to hate this class, or, like, this class is always a must. Always check for yourself. Do you enjoy it? Just play it. Do you not enjoy it? Put it on a shit list. That's...
Oh, that was definitely part of it. I was expecting hearing about the Mechanic, I was expecting it to be a nightmare, and getting there, I was like, okay, this is a fun class. Like, I don't know why people are complaining.
Yeah. You see, here's the same thing about Hayato as well. People are like, oh, it's too weak. I'm like, you have one mobbing skill and an AoE that you press. It's very straightforward. I liked having a non-complex item character for a while, and then do a little bit more complex one after that, and then do a more simple, like do a Hayato, then do a Hoyoung, then do a Pathfinder, then do a Thunderbreaker. Like alternate a little bit between them. And that's the other thing, right? Sometimes people put all the fun characters in the beginning, and then they're left with only the shitters at the end, and then it's like, oof. So, sometimes if there's an event, jump on that, right? To make some shitter progress, and then you can enjoy the ones in between more.
Yep.
All right. Do you need any help or information on familiars, or are you good on that?
I mean, I think the way I'm going about familiars is probably wrong.
Okay, you've got good badge progress, so that's really good, really nice.
But as for, like, I basically go for epic or nothing. And I'm starting to realize that might not be the way I should be going about it. Should I be just mass opening rares for the ones that I want, and then worry about upgrading to epics as I go along?
I would open commons and rares as long as you still need 15% ID familiars. You have 2 of them already. So I think you're probably past that point. Everything else that you can reveal on common and rare, I guess rare can open like increases drop rate period, but you already have the epic increased drop rate by a large amount. So I think you're just completely good on commons and rares. Your value that can come out of commons and rares now, specifically on the ones that aren't the ones where you train on, right? But from the other areas, is to start opening them on stuff like your Adele, for example. If you're trying to make a side bossing mule and you want to get that easy IED early on, right? And try to get those 15% IEDs from commons and rares there. But honestly, since you have the large item drop rate and you have some healing as well, restores, and you have 15 IED with healing, and these both have healing and IED. Those are nice combos. I think you're probably at the point now where you want to start making unique cards, honestly.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good news.
Yeah, because the top line of unique is unique line, and then the bottom one is epic line as well. So your chances for big chunks of IED, big chunks of boss damage goes up significantly. And it's basically those two and any kind of combination of healing and maybe some other stuff that you're looking for. But that is going to be a lot of cards, so make sure that if you're actively working on trying to make bossing mules, that you get enough familiars there to get that IED first, and then go back to making like uniques to min-max on your main, I would say.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll prio the Adele for that then. I'm definitely gonna throw familiars towards their Adele then.
Yeah, but that's like that you can do with the common and the rares to reveal it. But anything else on this character, like even epic, I don't even think it's worth making epics anymore at this point. Because like the best thing you're gonna get is like 20 and 30% boss. But if you make uniques, you'll have chance for 20 boss, 30 boss, 35 boss, 40 boss, and those same percentages of IED as well. It makes more sense to make uniques now at this point.
Cool.
With but prepare to fail a lot, right? Because it's like 40% chance to upgrade and 150 cards. So it's not fun, but if you do hit something nice, it's gonna be big. So
yeah, I think I made one unique, and then I went back to making epics. But
I think in general the advice is just if you have the IED covered, but that's from commons and rares. Once you get the large item drop rate, like until you get that one, I would make mass epics. And then once you have the large item drop rate, your income for the familiars goes up a lot, and then you're using the large drop rate, and then the other 2 slots are just leveling up familiars, right?
I was using the blue meso drop rate with it. I'm not sure if, I mean, is that worth it? Is that stacking? Is that, you know?
It does stack because it's a different type of drop rate. That's correct. But meso drop rate is a different beast in the sense that it has a lower cap before your, well, it has a lower cap. So like item drop rate in GMS, as far as we know, doesn't even have a cap, so you can just keep stacking. It has certain internal caps, like how much can come from equips, etc. But the total drop rate doesn't seem to be capped at all in GMS. In KMS it is, but GMS is just like, you guys can do whatever you want, I guess. When it comes to meso drop rate, the base drop rate for a bag from a monster is 60%. And it works multiplicatively with the sources. So like if you increase the drop rate by 66.66%, it goes up to 100%. And then every monster just always drops a bag. And then moving up past that point doesn't help anymore. So let's say that your holy symbol, which is both item drop rate and meso drop rate, right? For familiars it's separate, but for items and for potions and stuff like that, it's combined. Let's say that your item drop rate and your holy symbol, for example, and your inner ability, which you don't have in this case, but just to clarify, if all of that together is 67% or higher, then the specific meso familiar won't do anything anymore because it's already capped without it.
Okay. So yeah, I don't need to use that one anymore then. I
don't think so, right? If you have like 3 lines of drop rate and holy symbol, you're already there. So if you have at least that, then you can use the second and the third slot for either a high defense familiar if you want to slow down the depletion of the gauge, or you can level 2 familiars at once. But I guess if you're making uniques, that's not terribly necessary because, you know, it's got to be a lot of cards before you can level even one up. That's like an average of, what is that, 2.5 times 150.
I think I have like a good 5 or 10 epic level 5s ready to upgrade to unique as it is anyway. So
yeah, so
definitely
then
spacing out my gauge is definitely something
that'll be more useful then. Yeah, and the other thing is also if you get uniques and they get lucky with leveling up, they can get a lot of defense. Like I got a castle golem with like 12 defense somewhere. Like that helps a lot with not depleting your gauges quickly. So especially if you're not sticking to the 2 hours on a totems, but you're more like, you know, with a kana on the side, and you can do those longer sessions, then you want to make sure that you have that extra gauge, and then also keep a little bit extra on the for familiar essences, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I had a stack. I think it was from an event or something, but I had some essences on my
or a goo event probably if you play that.
Yeah, I think goo event was okay. Yeah, that's
you give those like goo familiars and the essences, yeah.
Yeah,
and red
so
cards.
Like I jumped right into that, and that was probably the last event I fully played, and it was the right after that is when I
oh yeah, that will make you quit. Yeah, that made the game lag a whole lot after that. Yeah, that game made the game that event made the game quite a bit unstable. Yeah.
So I kind of been burning through those, but now I'm looking back at, okay, what's the price of these things now that I'm burning through so many? I'm like, oh, 300 familiar points. I'm like, I don't want to spend that much on. So yeah, I'm gonna need to try and slow down the gauge as it is.
It's not too bad, right? If you extract some, so like for feeding, you might as well just use some the commons, and then for extracting, I think the rares are a bit better to extract, so that you get better points for that. It's about a 2 to 1 for both, though, so it's not terribly different. But yeah, it's good to just have a little bit of a bank, because the worst part is you're like, okay, I just fed all of my familiar cards into epics. I didn't rank them up. I don't have any familiars left. My familiars are about to die, but I do want to train more. Then you're kind of like fucked. So it's probably best to just extract a bunch of points and make sure you always have like 1k, 1.5k in the shop available for like a rainy day, that if you need to, you can immediately buy 1 or 2 of those and have like an extra hour or 2 of familiar gauge. And then in that time, you can make your familiars back and then replenish it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Any other familiar questions?
No. Yeah. That's I'm feeling really way better about familiars now than I was before. So.
Okay. Good. I'll look through the Dell real quick to see where it's at.
I mean. There was no real point in posting what the gear is.
Yeah, no.
It's all just no potentials and...
Yeah, and some rares, a few epics here and there. What level is this character?
203.
203, okay. Oh, yeah, it's an Allegiant board. Yeah, you're right.
I got I think I basically just got it to 200, and then I've been doing like daily arcing rivers to 2 or 3 so far.
Yeah, I had those special rewards leveling it up, right? When it came out, just like the Lara did. I guess you missed the Lara release.
Oh my god, I'm kicking myself over that. I did the pre-event. I was literally logging in for the pre-event.
Oh, right, for the coins?
Yeah, and then when the time came, I didn't collect any of the rewards. I didn't make the character. I'm feeling so bad about that one.
Well, yeah, that's what the game wants you, right? They want you to be invested so that you get that FOMO and that that sunk costs, well. Right? Yeah, they do that very well. Yeah. In the end, it's a product that they want you to consume, right? That's what you always need to think about. Like a lot of times, it seems like they're giving you something for free, but a lot of times, the reason they can give you something for free is because they know that it works and it makes people come back, and then they give you more in the end. They give you more playtime and more screen time, and sometimes you do have to rationalize it that way to be like, okay, do I really want this, or am I basically getting goaded into doing this because they make it seem so good, you know? And you can still enjoy the product, but also realize the fact that, you know, a lot of it is kind of predatory on trying to get you in there, right? It's a little bit of finding the balance between those two.
Yeah, thank God I'm not into the surprise mechanics of other games.
yeah. All of the gacha rolling and everything. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I think we should probably really quick check out the Matrix and see if there's anything there, and then go into the equips.
Sure.
Do you have any questions regarding the Matrix? I can tell you upcoming.
Low on time, we can probably just run through skip over the Matrix.
Yeah, I'm guessing for mobbing and bossing, you move a few stuff around. I'm guessing the rope lift is only there for some bosses. For other bosses, you use Shadow Walker or.
The rope lift has been there since I had a cooldown on whatever web.
Meso web, Shadow web, yeah.
So, and then now that I'm using it, I'm so used to it that I don't want to give it up. So it's like.
But for some bosses, you literally just can't use it, right? Because there's no platforms.
No platforms. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
since
I should be switching it out.
Yeah, because you're so burst heavy, and every single slot is so valuable still. Because there's if you're burst heavy, you're looking for the skills to augment your burst. You're getting towards the end, but like the True Arachnid Reflection is still a nice amount of damage. The Goddess Blessing to increase your burst is very big, and the Shadow Walker is keeps you in dark side and gives you final damage as well, right? So that also increases your burst quite a bit. So those would be still the 3 skills that I'd be looking towards trying to get in there. So what some people will do is, rope lift, and then maybe they take dark side out for one of the, holy symbol out for one of the 2, and then either sneak it back in at the end to get the extra little bit of drop, or if they don't have the time, just kill it without a holy symbol. But that way you do get access to those 2 extra skills, and you can make the boss fights that much faster and more manageable. But it's up to you, right? If you think the constant switching, you might actually miss out, and that's why I have the checklist as well, right? V-Matrix is one of them. You go through the V-Matrix, you double check that everything's in the right place, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess I kind of rely on the fact that I don't have to switch stuff out.
Yeah, exactly.
The next question is, actually, which is should I go ahead? I just got to 250. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to get to 255. Should I go ahead and spend the half a bill on unlocking another one?
Well, which skill would you want to put in?
I think I just put in the arcane one, or the will skill or whatever, and probably either the Maple Warrior or the Nightwalker one.
So you put in Will of Urda?
Yeah, so in my thing now I have True Arcane Reflection is the new one that I put for my 250. And I can spend 420 mil on unlocking another one. I'd probably I was thinking putting in the Maple World Goddess Blessing in for it instead.
Yeah, so in that sense, you'd be kind of paying the premium of 420 mil for not having to switch. If that's worth it for you, then I would. Yeah, it is a good burst. I think Shadow Walker does more for you for your burst, if I'm not mistaken.
Does it?
Because it's a final damage one, right? The stat is really nice too, though. Eventually, you want both to maximize. Yeah, you could do that. The main thing I would look for is, are there bosses right now that are giving you trouble that would become easier or that would become significantly faster? And is it worth your money versus spending it in other places? Those are like the two questions I would have you like answer for yourself. And if one of those two is like a no, then I would just hold off on it. And if both of them are yes, then, you know, green light, go ahead.
Yeah, hold off on it then.
Yep, well, there you go. And that's how you can do it next time, right? Next how you can answer the question next time for yourself or on any other character. Like, is that money better well spent somewhere else? Or are you okay with the slight discomfort of having to switch it in for the rope lift? And is that, you know, is that worth the 420 mil that you can spend somewhere else?
Yeah, definitely with the 5, 10, 15 coming up too.
I guess one thing, as far as I know, hyper body doesn't seem like it's ever going to be relevant, and the poison skill venom thing also doesn't seem like it's going to be relevant at all. So I think you're okay to just disassemble those as you get them. I don't see any point in leveling those up. All the other ones, including the blink, are going to be useful, and Urda Nova is going to be quite a lot better as a bind, and it's going to be very good for Nightlords because the cooldown is going to be significantly reduced on that. So if you get, you know, just leveling it up as you get it is going to be really nice. But I guess specifically now you're crafting skill nodes for your 3-minute burst, right? For your throw blasting and your spread throw.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that.
Yeah, that's going to get your burst up quite a bit. I'll probably, because I see you have 13, 14, 13, 13, 13, 10. I mean, that could be just coincidence, but I would like specifically put it into your spread throw and your throw blasting. And then once those are done, then go into, I believe people go into Shadow Walker and Last Resort after that point. But again, for that exact priority, that's like Nightlord Discord question. Or they might even have it in the FAQ or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you're at that point now, right? All the boost nodes are maxed, so...
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to ask was... I should be sending nodes to my Adele if I want to make that a...
Yeah.
Meal for the time being. At this point with Nightlayer, right?
Yeah. They'll get a lot of value, although I think, you know, whether you think that's a large or a small amount, but I think with anywhere from like 100 to 200, you can already get a lot of progress done on a new character.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sitting right there at like 150 nodes right now, and I was holding off just for this session.
I see, yeah. Yeah, that would be a really solid start, because that makes it also that all of the other... there has to go way less money to the character to get the same results, right? Because the boost nodes will be able to carry. Skill nodes can stay very low level, like level 1, 2, 3, whatever you get, but then the boost nodes getting from level 0 all the way up to level 10 on like the solid ones is going to increase the final damage by 20%, so, or 30%, right, in level 5 slots, once you get to like 210, so that's huge.
Yeah. And then for the 5, 10, 15, I mean, it seems like it's going to be a pretty big gap between what bosses I'm clearing right now and
the next ones.
The damage I need for the next one.
Yeah.
Should it still be kind of pumped into? I guess we still need to get into the gear, but
yeah, I'm looking through it now because there's a lot of 17, 18 stuff.
I should probably be pumping my stuff into the Adele this 5, 10, 15, I think, or.
It looks like it because your next jump is, well, it would be like transposing a pendant, right?
I have probably one transpose for each of them, like the eyepiece and the face piece. Besides that, I just have the one.
You have no pet mark, right?
No, I have one pet mark. I think it's in the list of stuff. I literally just got that this week. Okay, so well, congrats.
That's a rare find. Yeah. Oh yeah, here I see it. Yeah, yeah. So that's more, but that's the thing. You know, getting that up to 16 for transposing is not that important. It's better to just wait for like a 30% off and then safeguard them up to 15, right? And then just hold on to them for the next 5, 10, 15 and then bump them up to 16. Because you're going to be doing the process of flaming there, but you probably want to hold off on that a little bit and make sure that the Adela settled first and that the general income from all your characters is starting to generate. And then the more characters you have bosses on, the more free flames you're getting, and then that can just circle back into whatever project you're working on, being the Pat Mark and the Dominator first, and then probably, you know, the Abso gear on the Adele, and then maybe circle back to optimize your Abso gear a little bit more on your main, maybe your CRA stuff, and then at that point, you know, it's about maybe into arcane pieces for your Nightlord, right?
Yeah. And that was the other thing. I think Sweetwater Pendant is only like 12 star right now. So if I'm
it's a meso drop piece, right?
Yeah, it's just the meso really. So I shouldn't worry about getting that to 16 or 17, and then even though I'm going to be transposing later, I should just keep it at the 12 for now.
Well, I would say if you transpose, you're probably going to transpose it into a new one, right? Not into this one. I mean, you roll over the all over the potential that you have now, and the investment you have into it now.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, should I just be buying a new one? Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so that's a further project, so I don't think that's super pressure right now. So Star Force wise, I don't think, because you're gonna have to do the flaming first, you're gonna have to get enough Dinero first. That's all gonna take time anyway. So there's gonna be Star Force events in between there, so you can use a 30% off instead to get that Star Force cheaper. So that's all taking pressure off of the 5, 10, 15 for your character now. That makes sense, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think 5, 10, 15, you're clearly just looking towards the Adele, trying to bump it up to 17 there.
Yeah, and I definitely have, if I remember correctly, the last time I had a 5, 10, 15, my Nightlord was in the same position as my Adele, and I think like with way less money, I got everything up to...
Yeah, you're probably looking for like half of what you plan to get.
Yeah, and I should be able to hit 17 with everything, or more or less, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's pretty clear, right? We can look at what the next projects would be on the Nightlord. So what did you have in mind to do next, just so I can kind of see where your head's at with that?
So I know for sure my Absolab helm or hat needs to go to 17. Besides that, I was kind of lost on... I have no idea which... I was thinking potentials is something, but if I'm hitting 2 lines unique on the stuff, and if I'm getting a chance of arcane here and there, then is there really any more reason to invest any more into the Absolab than I already am?
Yeah,
so I'm pretty lost.
Okay, yeah, so the hat meta is kind of gone as well. The main reason that was there because the set bonus, the 5-set Abso bonus, was the 30% boss, right? So that was a huge loss if you switched into the weapon, into the arcane weapon. And to maintain the set bonus, you would switch the CRA hat out for the Abso hat, because the set bonus loss or the set bonus gain would accommodate for the possible stat loss there. But they switched the arcane set bonus and the Absolute bonus around. And spread the boss damage over 3 10% instead over the set bonus, so it wasn't so top heavy. The main reason was so that whenever you get another arcane piece, you can always switch into it from Abso into arcane. And you don't have to, unless the arcane is going to be 17 and the Abso was 22 or something, right? Barring that situation, you can always switch over to make people not feel bad about getting a piece, because they would have to wait for all the pieces before they could switch. But the extra result of that is also that the Abso set is now also not as top heavy anymore. If you check the set bonus in game, you can see the boss damage is split, right?
Yeah, I noticed it now.
Yeah, so you would only be gaining the 10 boss damage and the attack, and that makes it so that if you're in this situation, you don't have to invest further into the Abso hat, and you can just go straight into the higher Star Force CRA hat, which will eventually be what you want to do anyway, because you go back into the CRA hat once you're at 5-set arcane, right? So basically, the step from now is that any piece of arcane you get, you immediately move the Abso or switch the Abso out for the arcane piece, and the limit to how far you get the Abso is therefore very limited, because you don't, their days are numbered basically. So the general limit we take the Abso stuff to would be something like where your glove is at. So either the potential on your hat, which is unfortunate that it's on the hat now, but like if you get the potential of your hat on any of the Abso pieces, or just 2-line legendary, that's typically the extent of the potential. If you have critical damage, and some junk lines on the gloves, that's probably good enough as well. I probably wouldn't touch that. The flames on all the pieces can probably be a little bit better, because you are still gonna need them to, do the due diligence to get your arcane pieces. Although if you're mainly getting carried, then the main reason for upgrading the Abzos would be to be able to train faster and go and be able to two-shot with your Assassin's Marks at a higher level. Not so much for the boss damage part of it, right?
Yeah.
But for most, so in general, it's like 17 star. Your glove's already 18. That's fine. Flame scores of around 85-ish to 90 probably. And then either 3-line or like 2.5 line, 3-line on unique, or 2 useful lines on legendary, and then that's typically the extent we take Abzo to. But the hat is kind of not going to be done anymore.
All right, so just throw the CRA in there and be happy with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that also and then it also means that you can push a little bit higher on the CRA earlier, right? And Star Forcing past, you're already at 18, that's great. And then people tend to push it to 19 and maybe even push it to 21 a lot earlier, because a lot of more damage has to come from your existing gear, especially if you're going into, in between point A and B, right, that we were talking about, and you have to carry your own weight more. People push harder on the CRA gear and harder on the accessories, because the Abzo is just going to sit back for a while because of the switch into Arcane sooner.
And for this 5, 10, 15, I am going to be able to get a arcane piece. Should I invest into that really quick, get a arcane piece in there, and then the rest of Adele after that? Or
that's probably fine. So we would look at the Abzo pieces, right? And we would look at the one that would need the most work from where it's at, and then switch that one out first, right? That way we can minimize our losses on the Abzo and maximize our gains on the Arcane. So the potential, you're looking at a 14 and a 14 on the cape. I'm mainly looking for the cape and a shoe, because I'm assuming it's a lucid drop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the glove is already has the legendary with the crit damage, and is already 18 stars, so that would be less of an upgrade there. Though I do like the glove as an upgrade, because you tend to be able to go for double crit damage on there on the potential, but that's a whole lot of extra expense that I think is a little bit too early for you in this stage. So I like to keep the glove and look for either the shoe or the cape. Since they have the same potential, I would just switch the one that has the lowest flame score, which is the cape. So I probably would switch to cape first.
Cool.
That makes sense, that process?
Like it.
And then you gotta be killing Will, and then the shoulder is probably next, I'm guessing. Depending on the Will clears.
I mean, I'm just taking one step at a time with that. I got the droplets for one piece, and I make no assumptions that I'll get drops in the bosses, and if I do that, then I feel a bit luckier with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a side thing. People are like, oh, should I already buy a piece? Should I hold on? What if I get a drop? But, eventually you're going to have, like, accessories 21, CRA at 22, everything else, like, and then the Abzo at 7, the Arcane at 17. And then if you get drops, then you just have backups, and then you get to push past 17 and try to go for 19, right? That's eventually, as crazy as that sounds at this point, that's eventually what you're going towards. And in all fairness, going from 17 to 19... it's pretty low chance for booming. It's just terribly expensive, but it's pretty low chance for booming, and it's great gains. It's once you start pushing past 19 that the real shit show starts. So, try to avoid that on anything that you care about as long as possible, basically. Like, right, that's for Superior, we just do fodder gear and then transfer him right over. For CRA, we have infinite backup, so we don't care. But yeah, for stuff like Abzo and stuff like Arcane, we keep that very, very far.
Not do those weeklies, that'd be preferred.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah. That's why, and that's why I talked to you about getting just necro pieces all the way up to 250, because you couldn't catch me dead doing those weeklies. That's just not for me. So I'll just no Abzo for me, I guess. Thank you. I'll just skip that whole thing. Someone asked me the other day, like, what would I rather have? The fact that you would have to redo the weekly quest for Lotus and Damien every week, or that cubing could blow up your equip and lose all of your potential? I'm like, just make us do the weeklies again, so I can just completely forget about Lotus and Damien even existing and just move straight into Arcane. I'll have that one. If I have to pick one of those two, yeah, keep my cubing safe, but get rid of that content for all I care. Yeah, no, totally up there with you. Yeah, and then I guess the next step after that, so for flaming, I think there's some decent gains to be made. Yeah, if you're that close to Arcane and you're mainly getting carried for the bosses or the Abzo, we could probably take a bit of pressure off the Abzo and kind of leave them as they are, honestly. But I would definitely work on the flaming a little bit on the CRA stuff. Like the hat and the top, right? Their flame can definitely be improved. I don't know if do you have your pink holy cup in here?
I should. Do I not?
I may have missed it. I don't see it, but you basically want to keep that mirroring roughly the same flame score. You're familiar with flame scores and how to calculate that?
I think I've used your calculator before, but not since I've come back. Or your link to where the calculator is.
Yeah, so there's a link to the video, right, that goes into flame score. Maybe just rewatch that one just to freshen up on like what the whole thing is. And then there's a link to, because it also talks about, like, you know, just calculating the number doesn't really mean much. You also have to know what the number means, right, and what kind of numbers you're aiming for. So that explains all of that. So maybe to freshen up that knowledge. And then there's a link to calculating what is your flame score in your item. And there's also a link to calculating how much would a certain flame score cost in amount of flames. So you can also see, like, oh, I think I want to upgrade this one. Well, how much would you be aiming for? Throw it into the calculator and see how much money that would cost you. And if you're like, oh, I feel like I can hit this, and the projected cost is like 200 mil, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm okay with spending this, right? But if the projected cost is like 200 bill, you could be like, okay, maybe I'm kind of misjudging the odds here. So that could be a good way also of double checking if that next upgrade is going to be worth your money and if you should be going for it.
Oh yeah, that's huge for me, because I honestly thought the next thing you were going to tell me to work on was potentials, really. But I'm glad that you're
well, yeah, I mentioned flames because it's kind of like it's kind of like a side process, right? Once you get those bosses online on the other characters as well, you're going to get much more free flames. So it's good to have like a kind of a list in mind of, okay, this is the next project for the flames, this is the next project, and then you can just kind of like with the shitters, right? You just have kind of like a tier list of this is where the flames are going, and I have kind of an idea of like this is how much you're aiming for, and then move on to the next one, and then slowly it'll be like a side process that you're not really actively thinking about, but it's going to help you you know, get stronger. I think after that you probably look at the potentials. Mainly your weapon, secondary, and emblem, right? Like the emblem is sitting on a lot of potential that definitely needs an upgrade.
The emblem, okay,
yeah. Because 12 luck is nice, but attack is just so much better, especially for you. And you need that damage as well for your Assassin's Marks for training, and just to make your burst better and to make your bossing damage better. That's definitely one that'll help you a lot. And yeah, the weapon and the secondary are both at 2 lines. The jump from 2 to 3 is a pretty big one and a pretty significant one, and you probably want to be prepared to spend anywhere from like 8 to 10 bill on each of those, specifically on the weapon. On the secondary, it's even more expensive to get like 3 somewhat useful lines. But on the emblem, I believe it's, well, yeah, you know, there's unlucky people. If you see Colomara in the chat, F for that guy. But it should be around like 2.5 bill or something to get useful 2 lines on an emblem. So the other thing is also, if you end up getting like attack and IED there or something, you can also use that as value, right? And then move stuff around maybe in your Legion board. And go a bit heavier on the boss damage, because I'm assuming you're filling... oh wait, how's your IED doing? Because, yeah, you have 3 setups here.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up. Yeah, I'm hurting on the IED a little bit.
Yeah,
so
it's fine to have... Well, do you have the full superior set?
Yes. I think I'm like at 88 IED. I mean, where it's calculating, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, visual, yeah. And that's with the 2 familiars?
I'm not sure if that's with the 2 familiars.
Well, if you're bossing, you want to throw up those 2 15%, because they also have healing, right? So those are very valuable. And then, yeah, I guess...
so maybe that is... I think that is with the 2 familiars.
And is it with the... Are you getting the ID from the Mudo buff as well?
No, that doesn't count with the Muto buff. I just got my some of the ID from that today.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, you do have the God, what's it called? Frailty Curse, right? Frailty Curse is big.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another one.
That's an extra 30%, so that'll be like 3.6. So that'll get you to 92 functional. And then you have your boost nodes, and then you have your, if you have them, the Explorer Mage debuff, right? So they get 92, 28, 1.6, 93, 6, 6.4, 9%, 0.5. So you're roughly around 94 functional. That's not super low, but it does mean that once you... so that's with your Legion board in ID or with your Legion board in boss damage?
Boss damage, I believe? Let me double check that right now.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so no, that is with the IED and...
yeah.
Yeah, that's with the Legion and IED.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's about at the point where you want to be. It's not like... it's not insanely high on ID, but you've got the Monster Parker medal coming in as well.
So then maybe don't aim for IED for the gear then? For if I'm working on the weapon, secondary...
Yeah.
Oh, I guess those are the only two that can get it, right? The emblem can't?
If you have... So for most classes, including Nightlord, if you have the Superior boss set completed and you have the 40% ID in your Legion board, that should be enough to reach what you want, provided that you also get all of the, the link skills, you get like level 3 Light Wash, that stuff, and that your hyper stats go up to 10, maybe 11, and that should cover it. If you do end up on IED and attack, for example, on the emblem, that could be like a keep for now, but that just means you can go back to the boss damage setup in your Legion board and basically maintain your amount of IED, and it'll just mean that you basically, quote-unquote, have a boss damage line on your emblem now, right? Because you just moved your Legion board around to fix the puzzle.
Yep.
So that's how you can get more utility out of potential lines. Well, potential lines, I guess, right? And then you can have more outs there, so on average your cubing is cheaper.
Yeah.
By using your more flexible stats, your Legion board, your link skills, your hyper stats to move around what your potentials get on your item. But yeah, I think the main goal would just be like 2 lines of attack, but there's a good chance you end up with a line of attack and a line of IED, and then basically that other line becomes a boss damage line, which is kind of comparable to a line of attack IED boss damage. It's interchangeable at this point. When you're going for 3 line and you're trying to maximize, the interchangeability kind of goes down because you're really trying to find a specific. But once you get to 8k Legion, you'll have pretty much the boss damage and the IED and the critical damage filled. So there, then your foundation is going to be more solid. So then you're going to be looking for more specific potential lines on the weapon, secondary, and emblem. Yeah.
Fun. Okay. Yeah, I think I kind of just forgot about the weapon, secondary, and emblem there when I came back. I wasn't even really looking at those, but yeah, I'll after the 5, 10, 15, I'll revisit that emblem.
Yeah, when everything is 17 and is on the quality of legendary lines, the next steps is basically making sure your WSE is good, transposing stuff, and pushing your CRA past, pushing your CRA to 19 or to 21. Those are like the next steps, basically. And then once all of that is done, your next steps is getting the level 140 fodder stuff to transfer over into the superior stuff. So making sure you get a lot of Dominator pendants, Kana treasure rings or Meister rings, if you need to craft those, reinforced earrings, and what's the last one I'm missing? And the ping beam belts or the reinforced belts. And then try to just, during a 15% off, just tapping those all the way to 21 and then transferring over into the superiors and then redoing the potential on the superiors, right? So that's why we don't go super hard on the superior gear potential, because it has to be redone later anyway.
Okay, yeah. But that's after like CRA 19 and stuff, right?
Yeah, 19 or even 21, yeah, because CRA just have so much more backup, so it's much more safe to do that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we went already quite a bit over time, so try to squeeze in all the stuff at the end there. But hopefully, with getting the foundation correct and going through the thought process and all these things, it makes more sense on where all of these things are positioned now.
Yep.
Because you're taking into account whether you're carrying all the weight or or distributed between your party, or it's completely on the shoulders of someone else, that can kind of shape on where you prioritize your upgrades, because, you know, you don't have to push. If, you know, if you can do everything around your level that you want, then you can just sit on your money and make more big jumps in upgrades, and that's always going to be more efficient than making a bunch of small jumps.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, if anything else comes up, I'll upload it on YouTube soon, so you can recheck it there. If anything comes up, hit me up on Discord. Otherwise, I'll be streaming live, so you can ask me anything there. But best of luck.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and I'll see you around.
Till next time.
All right. See ya. Bye. Cool. So, another big sesh. So if you guys are in a similar situation, if you guys have the 5, 10, 15 coming up, make sure you take these things to heart. Listen to the thought process behind why I give the certain advice. You'll never see me say, this is bad, do this is good, do that. It's always, if you're taking this into account and this into account, this would be the optimal solution. Make sure that that fits your profile of how you can play. Make sure that that maintains some of your fun, right? Don't get burned out. Just keep it fun, keep it light, and try to generally move in the direction where you want to go, you know? Then you'll be good, you'll be cool. You'll have a mom who has 6 level 250s, and then her main is almost level 272 and has 8.5k Legion somehow. That's because she's not worried about optimization, she's just going. And you can get a whole lot done that way. She just finds fun, she wants to do events, and she just wants to kill monsters. That's what she does. She doesn't like bossing, so she doesn't do that. Kind of blocks her in some way, but you can somehow still get into your 270s, and you can still get a whole lot of damage and start approaching 50k stats somehow. So, you know, play how you want to play, right? But hopefully that gave you some more insight on how you can take whatever base situation you have and go where you eventually want to go. You want to get carried, you just go ahead and do that. You know, I don't really care that much. Just trying to make sure that everyone's aware that there are options. There's a lot of other people like you who might be in the same situations where the only options they see is just getting carried or just never progressing. I do my best for my stream to create a platform where people can find each other who want to play the game together and want to do bosses together and want to learn together. We have a Discord as well where you can sign up for boss groups and where you can assign yourself boss roles and all the people in there are looking for a party for the same bosses, so you can just contact anyone there. I say harass jokingly, but contact anyone in there and be like, hey, I'm trying to make a party who's trying to do bosses together, because it's a smaller community, so it can be harder to find people. But if everyone resorts to just getting carried, then there's nobody to do bosses with anymore, right? So trying to make sure that we keep empowering that group of people who's trying to do that. So if that's something you're interested in, stop by. I stream every day. Try to do noon to midnight UTC. You know, it changes a little bit because that's a pretty broad, spectrum, pretty 12 hours. But thanks for watching. And if you want to win one of these sessions, make sure you leave a comment saying that you would like to win. If you want just to plan one of these and you don't want to have to wait a whole month until your name gets drawn, I draw 2 winners every month, by the way. Then you can check the description as well on how to contact me and get one of these sessions. And if you just have some small questions, drop by the live stream or leave a comment or hit me up on Discord or whatever. I try to respond to everything I get. So again, thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, educational, entertaining, whatever. And I'll see you on the next one.